All right. To quote Swami Swahananda, here is Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, the latest incarnation of God as Mother. And we are on the story of Amzad on page 427. And let's see here. We were talking about how the town that she was in, Shiro Manipur, is predominantly Muslim, and how Mother didn't care. She served the Muslims there as her very own, even ate with them, even cleaned up their plates. Now, these things are things that don't make sense to Westerners because we don't have all those intricacies of culture around food and whatnot. But within the context of India, that was a huge deal. Mother could have lost her caste, been outcast in her village, but there were certain things she just never gave up, and the primary one is that everybody is her child. Whether she was defending having white people as disciples, or Muslims as both disciples and house guests, or untouchables that used to come and see Ramakrishna, and how she just saw us all with the eye of a mother and sincerely and authentically treated everyone as such. So it picks up here saying that all these years, the mother was living in her old cottage and using her two brothers' cottages for her disciples and out-of-town guests. As the number of disciples was increasing, Swami Sharadananda felt that Mother needed a house of her own. Construction began on her new house in April of 1915, and it formally opened on May 15th, 1916. Vibhuti Ghosh, the mother's disciple, hired Amzad and other Muslim workers to construct the house, which had a thatched roof, a mud floor, and mud walls. You can actually still see this house in Jairambati. You can go and sit there and meditate, actually, where that famous picture of Mother, where she's sort of leaning against a post with her feet outstretched, I believe it was taken there. Swami Arupananda was in charge of the construction. Some narrow-minded and fearful villagers tried to discourage Holy Mother from hiring convicted thieves, but she would not listen to them. She treated the Muslim workers with kindness and talked to them in her soft, sweet voice. Those Muslim workers, many of whom were formerly bandits, called her Mother. Observing their good behavior, the villagers later said, "By Mother's grace, even those robbers have become devotees of God." It's always wonderful. That's the thing about Holy Mother, is she always looks at you with hope and trust. You know, she always believes in you and does not hold your shortcomings against you. She sees you as your own ideal. And so it's always very encouraging. You can always feel safe going to Mother. She's not going to hold you against yourself, as it were. She understands and she knows. One day, the mother invited Amzad for lunch. She served him on the porch of her house. Owing to caste prejudices, Nalini, the mother's niece, threw the food at Amzad's leaf plate from a distance. Holy Mother noticed this and said, "How can one enjoy food when it's served with such scorn? Let me wait on him properly." After Amzad had finished his meal, Holy Mother cleaned the place where he had sat with her own hands. Nalini shrieked, "Aunt, you've lost your caste." "Keep quiet," the mother scolded her. Then she added, "As Sharat is my son, exactly so is Amzad." Sharat was a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the secretary of the the secretary of the Ramakrishna mission, and a monk endowed with saintly virtues. Amzad was a Muslim and a convicted robber. Thus, Holy Mother demonstrated that she is the mother of the good and the bad. She also showed that kind treatment can enkindle faith in the heart of a weak, lowly man and prove to him that he is a son of the Divine Mother. Her example brought to life the words of Krishna, "I am the same toward all beings. To me there is none hateful. or dear, but those who worship me with devotion, they are in me, and I too am in them. So, this equanimity, this is what we're always looking for, this equanimous feeling of love for everyone. Our Swami Prabhupada taught me when I was really struggling with the idea of having to renounce family, not being able to understand why that should be the case. And he was telling me, that for the monk, initially we push everybody back an arm's distance away. And then as we work on our practice, we bring everybody forward as our mother, as our father, as our brother, and as our sister, so that we can equanimously treat everyone the same, with the same love. I found that to be such a beautiful ideal when he explained it to me. It seemed like it really made sense, that we just don't have favorites. We don't have people that we prefer in the ideal. Of course, anywhere along the path we do, but we make the attempt to bring everybody to the same level of love. About 2 years later, Holy Mother was in Jairambati, bedridden with malarial fever. Devotees from various places came to see her. One morning, a brahmachari attending her noticed that an emaciated man of dark complexion, clad in rags and leaning on a stick, had entered the house. As he approached the mother's room, her eyes fell upon him. "Who is there?" she said in a feeble voice. "Is it my child Amzad? Come in." Amzad stepped into the veranda, sat at the threshold of the room, and began to converse with Mother about his painful life. Observing that the mother was freely talking to him, the brahmachari left the room. He later returned to pick up the jar of Ganges water that was in the mother's room. Generally, when the mother was well, she offered food to the master after sprinkling Ganges water in the kitchen. That day, the brahmachari was supposed to offer the food. Now he was in a dilemma. He could not ask Amzad to leave without offending the mother. Yet his caste prejudice, which was pricking his conscience, he would have to pass close by a Muslim to get to the jar of water. However, he decided to carry out his duty, thinking that if it was wrong, the mother would stop him. After offering food, he came back and put the holy water in the mother's room. She watched everything, but said nothing. At Holy Mother's request, Amzad was given oil to rub on his body, allowed to bathe in the pond, given a new cloth, and fed with good food until his stomach was full. That afternoon, as Amzad was returning home, chewing a betel roll, he seemed to be a completely different person. He carried in his bundle many gifts, including a bottle of Ayurvedic oil from the mother. Later, Holy Mother told the brahmachari, Amzad was unable to sleep because he had taken some kind of strong drug that overheated his brain. I had kept a bottle of Narayan oil with me for a long time, and I gave it to him. It will cool his brain if he uses it. That oil is very effective. Amzad soon recovered his health. Whenever he was informed that something needed to be done in the mother's house, he came immediately and performed the task faithfully. Once the mother lost her appetite due to a prolonged illness, and the doctor suggested that she eat pineapples. That fruit was not in season in Jairambati. However, word was sent to Amzad, who searched in different villages until he found some pineapples for the mother. Despite the mother's affection, Amzad did not abandon his life of crime. The people of Jairambati were afraid of him, but due to his devotion to the mother, her village was free from robbery. Once, after being released from jail, Amzad returned home and found some pumpkins growing on his vine. He picked them and went straight to the mother in Jairambati. "I have been thinking of you for a long time," Holy Mother said. "Where have you been all these days?" He frankly replied that he had been in jail because he had stolen a cow. The mother paid no heed to his crime and said with great kindness, "I was worried about your long absence." Boy, if that's just the very picture of grace right there. To imagine a woman as holy and as upright as Holy Mother, and someone as Amzad, who's gotten so much grace, still involved in crime. Holy Mother does not even hint at holding that against him. doesn't even choose to deal with it or scold him or anything at the time, which is just that amazing thing I find about both Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. I've shared it before, but I'm just always amazed how Ramakrishna taught or spoke with, Girish Ghosh, who was an alcoholic, how he never told Girish that he had to stop drinking, and just took it in stride, and even told him that as he had that glass of wine to always offer it up to the mother first before he would drink it. And it's just that respect for the human dignity. It's like, an alcoholic doesn't need to be told that he should stop drinking. you know we know our faults, we know our sins, we know our attachments, we know what we do, and all of us would give it up if we could snap our finger and have it finished, right? But those habits and those uh, conditions of life and circumstances somehow drag us in and hold us there. And to have a divine mother, to have that vision of God where God is just believing in you, looking past your faults because he knows you will be fine, that you're going to overcome them because she's the one working in you. She's the one cleaning you up, changing your diapers and setting you right. And so Mother looks past that, knowing that it's just a matter of time for all of us, before we overcome these things. Amzad was the leader of a gang of thieves. Bibhuti Ghosh recalled the following story, which Holy Mother told him with a smile. "Oh, Bibhuti, have you heard of Amzad's wit and intelligence? An immoral girl from an oil-caste family of Sihar had a paramour. She offered money to Amzad to kill her husband. She told him to knock at her door gently at night, and she would open the door. He should murder her husband and leave immediately. According to the plan, Amzad knocked on the door at night and the girl opened it. But instead of killing her husband, Amzad snatched her earrings and ran away. As a result, Amzad was sent to jail." Swami Ishanananda wrote, "When the mother was in Calcutta during her last illness, a letter arrived from Jairambati with the news that Amzad had committed a robbery in the neighboring village of Chandipur and that he had been severely injured. After hiding for a few days, he was arrested. When she heard this news, the mother remarked, 'My goodness, oh Bharata, I knew his robbing instinct was dormant. Do you think I took care of him for no reason? I kept him under my control by feeding him and giving him various gifts. He always obeyed me like a servant, bending his head in humility. I lived with all my nieces, and they have so much jewelry. You boys were not always around me, and moreover, you were very young.'" Right? So we see that Mother did have a motive, but it was a beautiful motive. She was very kind to him and gave him all the space with the ideal, that he was working, that he was moving toward her. And so she's wondering, did it all come to nothing? Did I give so much? And is he not going to respond? It is said that after Holy Mother passed away, Amzad suffered a sword wound during a robbery. That wound became septic and ultimately caused his death. Thus, he did reap the result of his karma. It is not known what was in Amzad's mind after the mother's passing away. He must have missed a mother who showed him such love, such compassion and forgiveness. The mother demonstrated through Amzad how the power of love can counteract the power of evil, and as a result, her family was never attacked by those Muslim robbers. Yeah, this notion that the mother demonstrated how the power of love can counteract the power of evil. That's something that is really good to remember in these days. It's hard times for that, and for us just to pull our minds out of the fray and always stay in a state of equanimity, right? Always stay fresh in the moment. Don't carry the past with you to determine how you think about others or to determine how you're going to act in the moment. Try and stay fresh by keeping the name of God close. And in the moment, act from that inspiration. That will help you to act from your higher instincts. because for us to all just start battling and insulting each other, it's just going to make things worse in these times. And, these times of extremism, we really need to just really work at that equanimity in the way we treat everyone. Uh, and at the same time, stand up for what is right. Mother of the Muslims. No human being is perfect, yet everyone struggles to attain perfection. Christ said, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as the Father in heaven is perfect." Only God is perfect, and the goal of religion is to attain that perfection which is within all beings. People make mistakes, small or big, and those mistakes are our teachers. They uplift human souls and help them make progress on their journeys. But one does not make any progress by brooding over mistakes or lamenting one's sins. I'm going to read that sentence one more time. This is a very, very beautiful sentence right here. Right? One does not make any progress by brooding over mistakes or by lamenting one's sins. Right? Just by grinding yourself into the dirt about those things, you're not going to make progress from that. Progress is made by the acceptance of grace, which generates the gratitude in us, which drives us forward to do better, through a positive inspiration rather than being driven to get ourselves right. People make mistakes, small or big, and those mistakes are our teachers. There's the attitude. Wonderful. Those mistakes are our teachers. So we learn through discernment. We watch our mistakes. We study them. We see, how did that happen? How did my mind get infected before that point? Where did the weakness come from? Did it come through some scars reminding me of something? Did it come by me blocking something out of my mind? Right? This is how we learn our inner nature. This is how we learn about our inner world, so that we can find the solutions to these samskaras that we've got, these bad habits. Those mistakes are our teachers. They uplift human souls and help make progress on their journey. One does not make any progress by brooding over mistakes or lamenting one's sins. Ramakrishna said, if you do 99 good deeds for a person, and then you do one bad one, he will remember the bad one and won't care anything for you anymore. However, if you commit 99 sins, but do one thing to God's satisfaction, God will forgive all your wrongdoing. This is the difference between the love of man and the love of God, right? It's part of that First Corinthians verse in chapter 13, when he says, love keeps no record of wrongs, right? We are that love, and we keep no record of wrongs, as the beloved keeps no record of our wrongs, right? That we are always in the moment. And in the moment, there is no cause and effect. There's no, I don't know, I'm not going to go into that whole thing. But that thing, if you stay in the moment, this is one advantage of that, is if in the moment you've been given permission to drop your samskaras, drop your karmas, set them down, drop your attachments, through the thought of God, through the company of the mother. And just keep that thought of her in your mind. And to do that, you'll have to drop all the others. So you don't even have to do the dropping part. You just have to do the positive part. Keeping mother in your mind, always singing her name, singing her glories, always thinking of the beloved. And that helps raise the mind up, helps you find inspiration. If you think about your faults, or you wonder what God is thinking about your faults, what are you doing? You're thinking about your faults, and the mind is going to spin negatively. It's going to get heavier and heavier to carry that kind of burden. So this grace of the Divine Mother allows us to live in the present moment free, with an infinity of potential in it. We don't have to be driven by what we've been or what we've done. We can take the name of grace, we can take our faith in the Divine Mother's name, and we can plow right through that, go straight forward, go directly to the divine. One day, a Muslim man offered Holy Mother some bananas and said, "Mother, I've brought them for the master. Will you accept them?" "Of course I will," replied the mother. Extending her hands, she said, "Give them to me. You have brought them for the master. I shall certainly take them." A woman attendant of the mother was present and immediately protested. "Mother, we know that he is a thief. How can you offer his things to the master?" Without acknowledging her protest, the mother gave puffed rice and sweets to the man. After he left, the mother scolded her attendant and said sternly, "I know who is good, and I know who is bad." Well, it's quite a strong statement there. Rasan Ali Khan, or Paramandapur, a village adjacent to Shiromanipur, met the mother when he was 14 years old, and later told some incidents about her that he had heard from his uncles Mepeti Sheikh and Hamedi Sheikh. They made their living by farming lands owned by Hindus, and they also had a bullock cart business. Holy Mother hired their carts when she traveled from Jairambati to Kualpara or Vishnupur, and from Kualpara to Jairambati. The mother's devotees also hired their carts so that the Muslim family could make some money. The wives of those bullock cart drivers sometimes visited the mother. She called them Bibi Bao, daughters-in-law. She fed them and listened to the stories of their families. So this is wonderful, given the times and places and circumstance that she's living in. Everyone else is being partial. Everybody else is being prejudiced. No, I won't eat with them. No, I won't invite them in. No, I won't accept their gifts. No, I won't speak with them. No, I won't sit with them. And that's the general attitude of society. And then look at mother coming along. It's like, no, these are my children, and she doesn't even make a big point of it. She's just wonderful to them, just so loving, so counter to what everybody else is experiencing or how everybody else in society is acting. And I know for sure she suffered in her town for that. I know because I see it even today. I know some Indian ladies from India, who when they break a rule like that, the whole village just turns such a mean spirit toward those kinds of things. So I know that Holy Mother really was taking a risk here, was really, setting an example, and then putting herself literally in danger. I think it could be fairly said, for maintaining these ideas and for maintaining this equanimous and equal love for everyone. It's just delightful to see, this ideal was not just an ideal for Holy Mother, but that she is acting it, being it. That this is sincere and deep in her. Just wonderful. Where were we here? She fed them and listened to stories of their families. There was no market in Jairambati. Badanganj and Kotolpur had big markets, and Shiromanipur had a small one. Almost every inhabitant of those Muslim villages grew vegetables. As Holy Mother had many visitors, Mefeti quite often brought various kinds of vegetables to her, such as pumpkins and gourds, kachu, which is an edible root, and sajina, also called drumstick bean. During the winter season, some Muslims brought date palm juice and molasses to the mother. They were reluctant to accept money from her, but she insisted, saying, "My sons, you must accept a fair price for goods that you have produced with hard labor." The mother gave them money, fed them the master's prasad, and gave them puffed rice and sweets. Sabina Bibi, an elderly Muslim woman, purchased mangoes and jackfruits in Kodalpur and sold them in Jairambati. Holy Mother often brought fruit from her. Holy Mother called her aunt, and during Muslim festivals, the mother would send offerings to the Dargah, a tomb of a Muslim saint, in Shiromanipur. Wow, see, she's even participating in showing respect to the saints of the Muslim population there. So she's really, she just I love this. This is so important to me to see this, that the purveyor of the philosophy that I am blessed to know and follow had such a wonderful integrity about her love of people, that this really is the one most important thing to her. And she didn't let her beliefs, her culture, her upbringing, her societal rules, she didn't let any of that get in the way. She's just right there. Holy Mother often bought fruit from her and called her aunt. During Muslim festivals, the mother would send offerings to the tomb of a Muslim saint in Shiro, Manipur. And one day, Mafeti asked, "Mother, you are a Hindu. Why do you send sweets and other offerings during Muslim festivals?" She replied, "My son, is God different? All are one. You see, the master practiced Islam sadhana and prayed like the Muslims. Names of God are many, but he is one." Mafeti once had a divine vision of the mother, and from then on, he believed that Holy Mother was a saint. Wow. Yes, it's very important because this stuff is still going on today. I just heard a story on a YouTube news channel this morning about a woman comic, told a joke that had some Muslim context to it. And immediately the whole community rose up and they wanted to kill this woman. She's in her early 20s and she just told a joke, and you just see the difference in attitudes. It's like religion can be a force for division and hatred like that, like none other, and quite often people like to notice that because it gives you an excuse not to be responsible toward these spiritual ideals. But that is not religion. Religion is not hatred and division and separation. I don't care what the source of that information is. That is not divine, and we know that in our hearts, right? And when we see this, like Holy Mother just pushing past all of that brutality, all of that hatred, and just being so confidently herself a divine mother, how right that rings in the heart. This is how we need to be. This is how we need to be. It's just wonderful. Mother of the Christians. Chapter 14 deals with Holy Mother's relationships with Western women. Without knowing their language, she communicated with Sarah Bull and Josephine MacLeod, Betty Leggett, Laura Glenn, Margaret Noble, Christine Greenstadel, Alberta Sturgis Montague, and others. Her maternal love and affection broke all the barriers of religion and culture, language and upbringing, and made these women her own. Holy Mother initiated a few Westerners, including men, 2 of whom later became monks. In 1911, at Madras, the Mother initiated Charles Johnson of New York, who later received the vows of brahmacharya from Sharadananda and became brahmachari Amritananda. The same year, Holy Mother gave initiation to Cornelius Heidsblom, known as Guru Das. Oh my. During his initiation, the Mother told him that he would repeat the mantra at all times, but if he really wanted to get results, he should meditate at set times and concentrate on the meaning of the mantra. Later, Guru Das was asked how he had felt at the time of his initiation, since he did not understand Bengali, and the Holy Mother did not speak any English. He explained, "When a child sits on its mother's lap, in which language do they converse?" Oh my God, that's gorgeous. When a child sits on its mother's lap, in which language do they converse? Similarly, I felt at that time as though the whole world dissolved, and I was a small baby sitting on the lap of my mother. I felt inebriated, and I had no doubts. In 1923, Guru Das received his monastic vows from Swami Abhedananda in Bellarmine and became Swami Atulananda. The Mother also initiated Dr. Halleck of New York and his wife, Gray Halleck. Sindhunath Panda wrote an eyewitness account. One evening, the Mother was seated in her room in Udbodhan. Dr. and Mrs. Halleck sat in front of her. Dr. Kanjilal and I were present, and Girish Ghosh sat at the threshold of the door and acted as an interpreter. Mrs. Halleck said, Mother, I am your daughter. Yes, you are my daughter, replied the mother. Dr. Halleck, Mother, how shall I know that you are the mother of the universe? The mother replied, As you have come here, you will understand in the course of time. I was moved listening to their conversation and seeing her in that domestic setting. One day, a Western woman came to see the mother at Udbodan House. When she was talking, the mother was smiling and communicating by nodding her head. When that woman left, the mother told the devotees, with a view to talking to me, she brought a copy of Belya Shiksha, a Bengali primary book, and learned Bengali. She heard that I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and so she also went to get up at that time. Blessed are those souls who come in contact with the mother and received her blessings. Some of the mother's Indian disciples were very patriotic and did not care for English people. The mother told one of them, My son, you and your other brothers, the English people, may quarrel among yourselves, but they are also my children. Oh, delightful. The mother's thoughts on British rule. Yeah, this is another component that we're not real familiar with here in the West, is how this British imperial colonization actually affected the countries on the ground. You know, that it was quite a difficult, very unpleasant experience. And mother was there during this time. Thakur was there during this time. The order was affected by these things at that time. So the mother's thoughts on the British rule. India was under British rule during Holy Mother's lifetime. As a universal mother, she loved her English children, but she raised her voice against the government's injustices when necessary. As some of Holy Mother's disciples had previously been connected with the Indian Revolutionary Movement, the police kept an eye on the mother's place, which displeased her. In 1917, the mother was in her new house in Jairamati. Her brother Kali, Brahmachari Bharata, and others were on the veranda of the parkour when they heard some bad news. A villager by the name of Devan Ghosh had a wife and sister. Both women were named Sindhubala. One of them was a political suspect. Devan's sister was in the advanced stage of pregnancy. The police at Bankura arrested both women and forced them to walk to the police station from their village of Juthbihar. The police were told that they made a mistake and a suitable conveyance was suggested to transport the women to the police station, but the police paid no heed. The request for bail was refused, and the women were subjected to various humiliations. Kali rushed to Holy Mother and reported everything. Holy Mother shuddered and her face turned red. She said in an extremely angry voice, What does all of this mean? Has it been done by the order of the government, or is it a clever act by the police officer concerned? We never heard of such cruelty to innocent women during the reign of Queen Victoria. If the government is responsible for the matter, then it will not last long. Was there no young man nearby who could have slapped the policeman and snatched the girls away? Where were Debam's brothers? Kali and the monks discussed the matter, but the news came that evening that the women had been released. When Kali gave the news to the Holy Mother, she said, If I had not heard of their release, I could not have slept tonight. A couple of days later, the mother said to Prabhakar of Arambagh, This British rule will not last long. It will continue only as long as Queen Victoria's merit lasts. Holy Mother was very thoughtful and far-sighted. She sensed that in the near future, many Westerners would come to India, attracted by the ideals of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. Swami Ritananda recalled, Krishna Prasanna, a learned devotee, stayed at Goalpara Ashrama for some days. One day the mother told us, Look, in the course of time, many devotees will come from Western countries. You should learn English well from Krishna Prasanna. Accordingly, we started to take English lessons, but it was discontinued some days later when Krishna Prasanna left. Holy Mother's patriotism. Swami Ishanananda recalled, once during Durga Puja, the mother gave me the responsibility of buying clothes for her nephews and nieces. I bought clothes made of coarse native cloth, but the girls did not like them. They wanted the fine English stuff. Irritated, I told them, these cloths were made in England. Do you think I will buy those foreign goods? The mother was seated there, and she listened to the discussion. Then she said with a smile, my son, the English people too are my children. I must live with all. I cannot be exclusive. Please buy clothes according to their choice. Later, I noticed that whenever any foreign articles had to be purchased, the mother would ask someone else to buy instead of me. It was against her nature to hurt anyone's feelings. Well, that's even a. I mean, that takes it the extra step, you know. She didn't make the point to him and then force him to go and buy all of those things all the time. She still respected him, you know, still respected his not wanting to buy from the foreign, from the foreigners that had caused so much trouble for them. So whenever she wanted that done, she went to somebody else. I mean, just so she challenged him, you know, showed him the ideal, but then was compassionate and understood his feelings about it and respected that and got someone else to do the shopping, you know, to buy those things. But this equanimous heart, boy, it's challenging to me, you know, these times, especially in these days. It's so provoking these days. This is quite a lesson for us, and quite a perfect time for it. That we must know we should not give in to these things. We really have to step forward with our ideal and insist on it in ourselves at these times. Not just these times, all times, but during World War I, there was a tremendous scarcity of cloth in India because all the mills were in England. The British took cotton from India and produced cloth in their country and then exported that cloth back to India at high prices. Yeah, they did. They weren't even allowed to have spinning wheels. That's why, you know, Gandhi had taught spinning. You know, it was such a national thing because of this, that the British didn't allow the Indians to make their own yarn, their own thread. You know, that they had to take it and send it to Britain. And of course, Britain would get the money and then send it back and then sell it at a super high price to the Indians. So this is part of the mischief that they were up to. Well, one day, Vibhuti Ghosh, a devotee of the Holy Mother, went to visit his fellow devotee, Shureshwar Sen, at Vishnupur. A young girl of the Sen family said to him, "Uncle, I can't leave my room, so I must pay my respects to you from here." Vibhuti threw his chadar, his cotton shawl, into the girl's room. She covered herself with it and came out. When Vibhuti told this story to the Holy Mother, she cried. A few days later, someone read Holy Mother some heartbreaking news from the newspaper. Some women had committed suicide because they had no clothing and could not leave their rooms. This made Holy Mother very sad. She cried loudly and then said, "What will the women do if they do not have a cloth to cover themselves? Is there any other way to protect their modesty except suicide?" Swami Nikhilananda described the mother's patriotic feeling at this time. Holy Mother was patriotic in her own way and cherished the welfare of the country. During the First World War, people suffered intensely, especially the women, from scarcity of clothes. Many of them could hardly go out in public, and the newspapers often reported the news of their suicides. One day, after hearing several reports of these heart-rending episodes, Holy Mother could not control herself. Weeping bitterly, She said, "When will the English go? When will they leave our country? Formerly we had spinning wheels in every house. People used to make yarn and weave their clothes. There was no scarcity of wearing apparel. The British have ruined the whole thing. They tricked us and said, you will get 4 pieces of English cloth for a rupee and 1 extra piece. All our people took to an easy life and the spinning wheel disappeared. Now, what has happened to these fops? There is no end to their misery." She asked a disciple to give her a spinning wheel. So she speaks truth. She doesn't compromise on the truth of it. She speaks it straightforward. That's horrible to read, to see that kind of thing. One afternoon, the mother asked a devotee, "Hello, there was such a great war going on. Why did it stop all of a sudden?" The devotee replied, "Mother, President Woodrow Wilson of America submitted to the peace conference 14 points that brought a truce. Each party agreed, and thus peace was established." The mother asked, "What were those conditions?" The devotee explained, "Not to invade another country, give mutual respect, give compensation for destruction, and so on." Holy Mother commented, "Oh, these are admirable words, but what they say comes from their lips. It would be wonderful if these words came from their heart." Right? So there's a teaching. No words from our lips. Our words are from our heart. Right? And that's what we were praising in Mother earlier with her serving Amzad with just no reservations like that. Mother of the birds and the beasts. In the 10th chapter of the Gita, Krishna described his divine manifestations. "I am the self, O Arjuna, seated in the heart of all creatures. I am the beginning. I am the middle. I am the end of all beings." He further said that among trees, he was the Aswatha tree, among horses, Uchaishravas, among elephants, Airavata, among cows, Kamaduk, among animals, the lion, among birds, Garuda, and so on. The entire creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe are in the domain of Shakti, who is the Divine Mother. She exists in all beings as consciousness and the Mother. In the Chandi, Brahma prayed, "O Mother of the universe, you are the power behind the creation, the preservation, and the dissolution of this universe. All these scriptures say that both immobile objects and mobile beings originated from the Divine Mother, so they are all parts of God or the Divine Mother." Ramakrishna was fond of dogs and cats. Ramlal recalled, "There was a dog in the temple garden that the master called Captain. Captain quite often sat on the front terrace of the mother's temple. Whenever the master would call him, the dog would come and roll at his feet. Then the master would feed him luchis and sandesh. The master once said, 'Look, there are so many dogs here, but none of them sits in front of the mother except Captain. I have not seen any other dog that sits on the steps near the Ganges and drinks Ganges water. Captain was born as a dog as the result of a curse. He has some good samskaras in his previous birth, so he is here. He is a blessed soul.'" Nistarini, Ghosh reminisced, "Once a cat took refuge in Sri Ramakrishna's room at Dakshineshwar with her little kittens. The mother cat would sometimes sleep on his bed near his feet, and if he reached down and touched her with his hand, at once she would get up and seem almost to make a pranam, a bow before him. It troubled the master much to know what to do with the cat and her kittens, for he felt that they did not get proper food at the temple. One day when I came to see him, he asked me, 'Will you do something for me?' I clasped my hands before him and said, 'Whatever it is, that I must do.' But again he asked, and I replied as before. Then he told me of the cats and asked me to take them. 'Remember,' he said, 'they have taken refuge with me. So see that they get the best of care.' Nistarini obeyed the master's instructions implicitly. Oh boy, that's beautiful. So this idea, take refuge in the divine. Here we see, even if you're just a cat, you're going to get the best of everything if you take your refuge in the beloved, in the divine. You know, these are amazing words and amazing examples that we should really take to heart, because they betray something extremely deep. They're not just the best of going and just recounting the best moments of Holy Mother, the best times of Ramakrishna. These were just random examples of a way that they lived, the way that they were the beloved incarnate, and the beloved served and loved and cared and was compassionate and equanimous and held nothing against anyone, but would see them with an open heart and serve them with an open heart, like that.
You know, I really like, just a total disregard for the form. All I see is the divinity, regardless of the form.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's true. I also like that. I also like that a lot. I also appreciate the fact that she still spoke about it. She didn't sweep what the British were doing under the rug. She also wanted them out of there. She wanted them gone. And she chastised their behavior and pointed out the immorality of it, how wrong it was. But at the same time, she would not let that affect her love or her behavior towards those people. She didn't define people by their actions. It seems to me that she defined them by the divine principle that was in them, like you said, that she saw God in them, and she
Well, like
didn't.
Thakur with the animals too, he
Yeah,
saw the divinity, not the form.
that's it. Yeah, that's right. Well, there's that famous story, of course, when he fed the cat the offerings at the shrine. Because he said in that mood, he looked and he saw the Divine Mother. And so instead of putting the food on the shrine, he fed it to the cat. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful reality. All right, let's read just a little bit more here. So he told me of the cats and asked me to take them. Remember, he said, they have taken refuge with me, so see that they get the best of care. Nistarini obeyed the master's instructions implicitly. Holy Mother took care of cows, of cats, and birds. And during Durga Puja, a goat sacrifice is part of that ritual. But when the monks performed Durga worship at Bellarmont, Holy Mother forbade them to perform the goat sacrifice. A monk is not supposed to perform any cruel action. When the mother was living at Udbodhan House, good milk was not available. So the monks told her that they would send a cow to Calcutta. But Holy Mother protested. The cows in Bellarmont move freely about the monastery compound on the banks of the Ganges. But in Calcutta, they would be confined to a dark room in the city, and the mother could not bear the idea of the cows having to live like that. Holy Mother did not approve of her disciples doing things that would inconvenience others. When Brahmachari Gyan wanted to buy pure milk in Jairambati from milkmen, he paid them double the asking price so the milk would not be watered down. The mother forbade him to continue this practice. She said that it would increase the price of milk and that the poor villagers would not be able to buy it for their children. When Girish Ghosh visited Jairambati, Holy Mother went from door to door to get a little milk in the morning so that she could make a morning tea for Girish and the other devotees. Once a disciple wanted to write a letter to a wealthy devotee to ask him to buy a cow for the mother. When he sought her consent, she scolded him and forbade him to write any such letter. Despite the shortage of milk, the mother was reluctant to buy cows and create more work for her attendants. She reluctantly gave her consent when Surendranath Gupta, later Swami Satsangananda, offered 2 cows, and her attendant Jnanananda was eager to look after them. Later, Jnanananda became very sick and needed to move temporarily to Katihar. Before he left, with Surendranath's help, He built a cowshed and engaged a boy named Govinda to take care of the cows. Now Govinda was an orphan boy, 10 years old, well behaved and cheerful. The mother was fond of him. After some time, he developed eczema all over his body and suffered excruciating pain. Once he passed a sleepless night crying. The next morning, Holy Mother ground some margosa leaves and raw turmeric into a paste and taught Govinda how to rub it all over his body. The antiseptic herbal treatment eventually cured him. Wow. Swami Ishanananda mentioned in his reminiscences that there was another boy who took care of the mother's cows. Ramendra was 14 years old. Surendranath paid his salary and bore all the expenses with regard to the cows. One morning in August, Ramendra was cutting grass at the northeast corner of the Punya Pukur when he was bitten by a water snake on his left index finger. He ran to the mother's house where Dr. Rampada immediately cut the spot so that the poison would come out with the blood. Rajendra's wrist was tied tightly with ropes in 2 or 3 places to keep the poison from spreading through his body. Holy Mother was performing worship when this occurred. When she heard the commotion, she left the shrine and went to see what had happened. She asked Dr. Rampada to remove the ties and said, "Take him to the temple of Mother Simhavahini right now. Nothing else needs to be done. Ramendra will be cured by the grace of Simhavahini." 2 persons escorted Ramendra to the temple, which was located in the southeast corner of the Jairabati village. The mother followed them. According to Holy Mother's instruction, Ramendra prostrated before the deity and then lay down on his back with his head toward the north. The mother put a little earth on an offered flower into his mouth and put a little earth on the wound. She asked her attendants to mix the earth of Simhavahini with a little water to make it mud and to smear that all over his body. Soon the left side of Ramendra's body began to swell, but Holy Mother sat there with her attendants till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. When the worship of the deity was over, she took a little buttermilk and sanctified water and fed Ramendra with it. She then went home for lunch, returning to the temple at 3 o'clock. That evening, Ramendra's body swelled so much that it seemed like his skin would crack. His eyes were closed and he could not speak. The clay had dried on his body, so a new layer was smeared over it. A message was sent to Ramendra's widowed mother in Nakunda village, who came that night and began to cry for her son. The mother consoled her, saying, "Don't worry. By the grace of the living goddess Simhavahini, your son will be cured. Don't cry near your son." Holy Mother returned to her home at 11 o'clock. Early the next morning, Holy Mother visited the temple and found that Ramendra had opened his eyes. His swelling was reduced and some fluid oozed from his wound. Holy Mother asked her attendant to put another layer of mud on his body, but as he was doing so, some flesh around the wound also fell off. When Holy Mother saw that, she said, "Well, now the danger is over. There is nothing to fear. By the grace of Mother Simhavahini, the mother has saved his life. As a result of the doctor's surgery, that poisonous part fell off, and his life has been spared." Ramendra gradually came around in the afternoon and began to talk normally. The mother fed him buttermilk and sanctified water again, and kept him lying there. The next day, Ramendra offered worship to the deity and came to the mother's house for lunch. He recuperated quickly and returned home with his mother. All right, so we'll stop there for this evening.